All right, let's start. So, students, yesterday we learned about the Muslim League, right? Now, who will tell me what exactly was there in this Muslim League, and who was the leader? What had happened? What was their perspective? What demands the Muslim League had made after the partition, and why India got divided into India and Pakistan?
Ma'am,
Yes,
may I tell?
yes, yes.
Ma'am, this Muslim League, it was established in 1906 in December,
Mm,
and the Muslims were now, they were in the side of partition of Bengal, and they wanted, their demands were that they should protect and promote the political rights of all the Muslims.
yes.
There should be a feeling of loyalty for the Muslims,
Mm,
and the third one was that to prevent the feelings of hostility and the communities.
yes,
This
yes.
this league had also served. It was
So
a
these
very
were their
politically,
beliefs, right? These were their objectives, right?
yes.
And what were their demands? What demands the Muslim League had made?
They
First, they
wanted
wanted to, yes,
separate. They wanted separate electorates, and
very good. Hmm.
they could vote for the Muslim leaders.
Yes, so Muslim voters could vote all the Muslim representatives
Yes.
only, right? That
Yes.
was one. And what was the other demand? That they want special safeguards for the Muslims in the government services, okay, government offices. All right. So
Yes.
till here, everyone was clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we will study the next topic. Do you want me to revise the Surat spirit, or you remember the Surat session?
We
Yes,
remember.
and yesterday I had given you all the tasks to create a differentiation between the moderates and the extremists, that is the radicals, with their beliefs, with their objectives, and with their methods. I hope everybody has done that. That's the
Yes.
important question. Even partition of Bengal, please make sure that you all write down the summary next to it, so that you can, during your exams, even if you read the summary or the pointers which you have written down, it will become easier for you all to remember the points, or on at least the keywords. Write down the keywords at least. Okay. So now the First World War and India. You know we had two world wars.
Yes.
World War One and World War Two. Now, when First World War was going on, India was at that time. India was under the rule of this British Empire. Okay. Now let's see what was the condition in India when this First World War was going on. Okay. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 had significant effect on the national movement. Okay. As a colony of British Empire, India was automatically drawn into the war. So India did not had any choice, whether they wanted to get involved in this First World War or not. It was because at that time it was the Britishers who was ruling India, right? They had spread it in their like colonies all over India, and these Britishers, they dragged all the Indians into the war, okay, without giving them any options. Okay, so that means India was also involved in this war. Now let's see how. Initially, there was an outburst of loyalty, and the Indian nationalist leaders supported the British government with men and money. Okay, so initially, when this war began, the most of the Indian nationalists, they supported the government. How did they support? By giving them money and by joining their services. That is through manpower. Okay, more than 1 million Indian soldiers were sent. This is very important. More than 1 million Indian soldiers were sent overseas to join the British Army, and 100 million pounds were given to the British government. Okay, so this is how the Indian nationalists, supported the British government. Most of the men who were Indians, they were sent to where? To the British Army. All right. And along with that, they had also paid 100 million pounds to the British government during this outbreak of this war, First World War. Fine. Now let's see what happens further. The British and their allies declared that they were fighting the war to make the world safe for democracy and to promote the right of all nations to form self-governments. This led the Indian nationalists to believe that a grateful Britain would reward India's loyalty and fulfill its demand of self-government. Okay? So why do you think the Indian nationalists, joined or helped the Britishers during this First World War? Because, first of
Because
all,
No,
the
ma'am,
ma'am,
Britishers
because they
told them,
thought that they will be rewarded as a loyal, like they will be given
correct,
loyalty and
correct. So,
fulfill their demands.
yes, and ma'am,
correct.
when these Britishers they declared that they are fighting the war to make the world safe for democracy.
Ma'am,
Yes, for world peace. First of all, they told them that we are fighting. We are getting involved in this war, that is First World War, just because to make sure that there is, say, democracy. There is, with the peace in the world. And one was that reason. The other reason was that the somewhere or the other Indians thought, okay, now see the Britishers need us. This is the time when they need us. So if we will show our loyalty to the Britishers, if we'll help them, if we will go and join their army, and if we will give them money, definitely, they will feel happy, because seeing our loyalty, and definitely they will give our self government. Okay, they will leave India and go. All right, so this was on this pretext they had helped the Britishers. Now let's see what happens further. However, as the war dragged on, the hopes and expectations of the Indian leaders began to wane. The British continued to ignore the Indian demands for reform. By 1915, Tilak, who was imprisoned for 6 years. You remember, we had in the previous lecture we had seen Tilak was imprisoned for 6 years. Who will tell me why he was imprisoned for 6 years?
ma'am, because ma'am, may I tell?
Uh-huh.
Ma'am,
Yes.
Tilak was imprisoned because the British had created the Swadeshi movement, and he was the main leader of the movement.
Yes, so the British banned the Swadeshi movement, and since Tilak was involved in this, so they imprisoned Tilak. Okay, now see, they involved themselves in the war, and they expected, there would be some. The Britishers will now accept their demands and bring reforms, right? But the war continued, and the Britishers, their attitude of ignoring the Indians and their demands to change and bring reforms, that also did not change. Okay, and after 6 years, after spending 6 years in jail, now Tilak was, you know, out. Okay, he was released. So was Tilak, who was released after 6 years, was convinced that the British had no real intentions of granting any concessions to the Indians. So he was there for 6 years in the like imprisoned, right? So he realized now the Britishers do not have any. He understood the real intentions of the Britishers, that these guys do not have any, intention of fulfilling our demands. So the Congress was passive and inactive at this time, dominated by the early nationalists who had lost the support and respect of the people. Tilak realized the need to revive the national spirit and to enthuse and energize the people. Okay, so now see, on one hand, we had the early nationalists who were, patiently waiting for the Britishers to accept their demands. Okay, so now what had happened? People also lost interest, lost their hopes with the early nationalists, that actually they are going to bring some change. They started the support they were giving was gone. The respect they had, these early nationalists had, was gone. And then Tilak realized, after spending so many years in jail, he understood that these guys do not have any intentions of fulfilling our demands. So what did he do? He understood, now it's high time that I again, spread this message of nationals, developing national spirit and energy, bring energy to these people, because now everything was calm and quiet, and it was only the Britishers who kept on dominating as usual. Fine, clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now the home rule leagues. Two home rule leagues were formed in 1916. Please underline. Home rule league is very important. Huh? Let's see what is there in the home rule league. one under the leadership of Tilak and second under the leadership of Annie Besant. Okay, so two home rule leagues. One leader was Tilak, the other leader was Annie Besant. Together, they spread the home rule movement to different parts of the country. Okay. Now, see, he understood now it's high time that we make people aware, develop national spirit again in them, so that again they could stand up and retaliate against the Britishers. So that's the reason. For that reason, they created this home rule league. Okay, and there were two home rule movement. One was led by Tilak, the other was led by Annie Besant. Okay, and they started spreading in different parts of India. The main aim of the leagues was to achieve self-government within the British Empire after the war. Okay, so on the war was going on, but on the other hand, in India, these leagues were formed so that once the war gets over, we would definitely form a self-government. We want to achieve self-government in the British Empire. This was the aim. Tilak and Annie Besant, they traveled. Okay, this is very important. They traveled, both these leaders, they traveled all over the India, and they started spreading the message of freedom and self-rule, and started developing the national spirit among most of the masses, most of the common Indians. Okay, and this movement, that is the home rule movement, became very popular in India. Okay, so what is home rule movement? Who will tell me? No, don't see, just tell me what you.
And may I?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. The home rule league is that there was one leadership of Bal Gangadhar Tilak and one was of Annie Besant. And the main motive for this was self-government within the British Empire, where they went all over India and they spread the message of freedom amongst all.
True. Okay, got it? Now, the Lucknow session of the Congress. It is the same year. Can you see the year is same? 1916. Home rule movement, which year?
1916.
Yes, so it's the same year. See, so many
1960.
activities within the same year. Now, another important development during the war was the change in the attitude of the Muslim towards the British government. Okay, the pro-British attitude of the Indian Muslims became anti-British. So, during while studying Muslim League, we had seen that the Muslims were supporting the Britishers, right? Yes or no? And that's the reason they also supported the partition of Bengal, because why? They had their own personal aims and interests to have a separate electoral system, to have Muslims in the British services. So these were the demands, and that's the reason they were supporting the Britishers. But now what happens? The ones who are supporting, they changed the Muslims who were supporting the Britishers, they also changed their attitude. Okay. Now the one who was supporting the Britishers, they became what? Anti-Britishers. Okay. So large sections of the educated Muslim began to support the national movement. Now they also came and joined the Congress. Okay, they also started. Everybody came together. See, that's the reason. When each and every group was fighting individually, so they could not overcome the Britishers. Now they realized that these Britishers are, trying to fool them, and that they are just fulfilling their own demands and ignoring the demands of the Indians. So now everybody came together and started supporting the nationalist movement. Nationalist Muslims like Ali brothers, that is Muhammad Ali Jinnah, you remember, Muslim League leader, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, okay? Maulana Muhammad Ali, Maulana Shaukat Ali, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, okay? All these leaders, okay? What did they do? They started spreading the nationalist ideas among the Muslims. So they also started creating awareness among the Muslims against these Britishers. Okay, because they now realize that the Britishers were just trying to fool them. They were giving them false, promises. All right. According to them, there was no conflict between Islam and nationalism. Abul Kalam Azad criticized the British policy of divide and rule and urged the Muslims to join in the struggle against the real enemy, that is the British imperialism. So this is now, see, during partition of Bengal, they had divided whom? The Hindus and the Muslim communities. The Britishers did that, right? and that is how they divided and started ruling both the communities individually. Now this is during this war, when the war was going on one hand we had the Muslim rule movement, the home rule movement, and on the other hand the realizations of the Muslim community that it is not that we have differences or conflict between Islam or nationalism. We all need to come together, whether it is Hindu community or Muslim community, and we have to fight with our real enemy. Who is the real enemy? It is the British imperialism. Okay, Hindus and Muslims, they are not the enemies created. So understood. So this jealousy and this hatred was created between these communities by the Britishers. Now they came together and they understood that we are fighting among ourselves, but the real enemy, our real enemy, are the Britishers. Okay, this realization was very important. Because of this, there was a change, in the freedom struggle. Now let's see what was the change. The changed attitude of the Indian Muslims brought the League and the Congress close to one another. League over here means the Muslim League. Okay, so on one hand, the Muslims had their Muslim League, the Hindus had the Congress. Okay, and they were both fighting on their level with the Britishers with their own demands. But now both of them came together. On one hand, the Muslim League, and on the other hand, the Congress. And then what did they do? The growing unity between them led to the signing of the Lucknow Pact. This is very important, Lucknow Pact. So what is this Lucknow Pact? Now they both of them came together and they signed a Lucknow Pact. Now what was involved in the Lucknow Pact? Let's see. The Lucknow Pact was an agreement signed by the Muslim League and the Congress. Why? To pave the way of the joint scheme of political reforms in India. See, both of them were giving their reforms. That means changes what they want individually, right? On one hand, the Muslim League had given their objectives and their demands to the Britishers. On the other hand, Congress was giving their demands to the Britishers, the reforms they wanted, the changes they wanted. But now through this Lucknow Pact, what did they do? They came together and they signed an agreement where both of them decided that now onwards we are going to join together whatever reforms, whatever changes we want. Okay, it is going to be a joint scheme now. Clear? Clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Under the Lucknow Pact, the League, jointly with the Congress, put forward the demand for a dominion status of India. This was an important step towards Hindu-Muslim unity. Okay. This is very important. So through this Lucknow Pact, what had happened? The unity between the Hindus and the Muslims got stronger and stronger, right? But because now they were putting forward their demands together. Okay, it was not individual anymore. They all came together, right? So now see, again they are united. So the Britishers, whatever seed of hatred they had sown, the Indian Muslims, that is the Hindus and the Muslims, got rid of it, right? The Lucknow session of the Congress also reunited the moderates on the radicals. Have you seen? There was one more division. One division was of Hindus and Muslims. The other division was of the radicals and the moderates. Moderates, which method they used?
Peaceful.
Radicals?
War.
War, agitation. Okay, they did not wanted the to wait for until the Britishers fulfill that. So now they also came together. See, can you see the difference? Now everybody is coming together, and now everybody realized we have only one real army, and who's that? It's the Britisher. The two wings of the Congress held a joint meeting for the first time since the Surat split in 1907. Okay, Surat split. What had happened in the Surat split? Who will tell me? Surat session. Which split we are talking about? Surat split. Who had splitted? Which two parties?
Ma'am, the Congress party was again divided.
So it divided into what? Name them.
Groups, ma'am, moderates and radicals.
Very good. The moderates and the radicals. Very good, Vivan. Very good. Okay. The nationalists realized that it was necessary to put up a united front against the British government. The unity between the Muslim League, the Congress on one hand, and the unity between the early nationalists and the assertive nationalists, that means the moderators and the radicals, on the other hand, aroused great political enthusiasm and strengthened the national movement. Okay. So now everybody was united. On one hand, the Muslim League and the Congress got united. The Hindus and the Muslim community came together. On the other hand, the moderates and the radicals, they also came together. Moderates are also known as early nationalists, and radicals are also known as the assertive nationalists. Okay, please remember. Clear, everyone? So now everybody came together, and for what? For fighting against the Britishers, that is the British government. Clear, everyone?
Yes.
Everybody understood till here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just scroll down.
Ma'am, finished.
Yeah, we'll do the question answers now.
Okay, ma'am.
See, there's a summary also given. This summary will also help you out to remember the answers, pointers. This is very, very important lesson and very easy, children. It is really very easy to remember, to learn. It's just that today itself, if you'll just write down the keywords next to the paragraph, whatever explanation has been done, it's more than enough. Even if you remember the pointers, the keywords, you can create your own answer in your own words. Right? You just need to remember few details. Shall I start with the question answers, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Ready? Okay. First one. The early nationalists spread dash among the people. Early nationalists, that is the moderators. Come on.